normal doors in Minecraft are pretty boring, which is why in today's video I'll be showing you how to build much better doors using the Create mod. So without further ado, let's get to building. To upgrade this modern house's door, I'm going to remove all of these, and we're going to replace those with glass panes in a way that resembles a door, and then we're going to make that door turn on a hinge. Now for this door, all you'll need is what your door is going to be made out of: super glue, a sequenced gear shift, a mechanical bearing, a redstone link, and some buttons, along with the floor for your build and any way to get your rotational power. For this video, I'll be using creative motors, but you can use something like water wheels or windmills to get your rotational power. Now, first you'll want to pick the block that your door is going to rotate around. So for me, I'll pick this block and then I'll dig down these 8. So in the bottom, directly under where your door is going to pivot around, you'll place whatever you're using to make the rotational power, with a sequenced gear shift on top and a mechanical bearing connected to the other end of the gear shift. So what this sequenced gear shift does is whenever we give it a redstone signal, it will tell this bearing to turn a certain amount of rotation, which we can set by accessing the sequenced gear shift. What we'll want to do for this sequenced gear shift is turn 90 degrees in the input speed forwards direction. And in the second part of the sequence, we can scroll this up to await new redstone pulse. So once we give this a redstone signal, it will turn 90 degrees until it gets another redstone signal. Then we can set this third instruction to turn by angle. We'll do 90 degrees again, but this time make this reversed rather than forwards. Now we can place a redstone link on this sequenced gear shift. Then you can set this frequency to whatever you would like it to be. Make sure to right click it with the wrench to set it to receiver so it can receive the signal from the button that we're going to press. Then you'll want to choose where your button is going to go. So for me, I'll place it here, and you can do one of two things. The first thing is to put the other redstone link so it can send the signal down to this one on the back of where your button is, so it's hidden inside. Or you can put another button here instead on the inside, so you can also have a way to open and close the door from the inside. And then you can place the redstone link below on the block connected to the buttons. Then you can give it that same frequency. Now you can click the button to make sure it works. And if whenever you press this button, this receiver lights up, then that means it's working. Now you want to place your floor, then on top of it, whatever design you're going to do for your door. This will be my design, using the whole left side is tiled glass panes and the middle and right side is framed glass panes. Next, we'll need to super glue all of this together, so we'll super glue our entire door first. Then you'll want to super glue your door to the block that is directly connected to the mechanical bearing. Now we can replace this block and make sure it works by pressing this button. And as you can see, it actually snaps back into place. And for using glass panes, that means whenever we turn the door back, it'll look a bit weird, but it still works nonetheless. And if your door is opening and closing the wrong direction, like if you want it to open in but it's opening out, you can go into the sequence gear shift and simply switch both of these directions to the opposite of what they are. Then you can click the button again and it should work. Now if you don't want the door to snap back into place like this whenever it's opening, then there are actually a few options that you can get on this mechanical bearing if you hold down right click on this little box. The first and default mode is always place when stopped, which means that those blocks will snap immediately into place. The second one is only place near initial angle. This will allow it to only snap back into place whenever it's in the starting position. And the third option is only place when anchor destroyed. This means that it won't place the blocks that are super glued ever unless the mechanical bearing gets destroyed. For this door, I'll choose the second option, which is only place near initial angle. That way when I click the button, it'll pick it up and keep it like this. And then whenever I close it back up, it'll turn back into blocks rather than the contraption. And also, how fast the door opens depends on how much rotational speed the mechanical bearing gets. So if you want it to open super fast, you can do something crazy like 256 RPM. Now it will go slow regardless of the amount of rotational speed it gets whenever it picks up the contraption, as you can see here. But then when closing it, it's really fast. Or you could also make it really slow, and then whenever you open it, it opens up really slow. When it opens up like this, you can see these shadows on the bottoms of the blocks. This has to do with how my shader pack shades things. So when I disable my shaders, you can see that it looks normal. And whenever I close this, it actually closes really slow as well. Now, once you find a comfortable speed for this to rotate at, then you can close this back up. Now, it's important to know that a bearing can't rotate an unmovable block like crying obsidian. But unlike a vanilla piston, the mechanical bearing can actually rotate tile entities such as crafting tables. And if you want to try to flip a block upside down, it doesn't really work because whenever it places the block back down, it'll automatically go back to the right side up position. Unless it happens to be a block like logs that can actually be rotated more than one direction. Then it'll keep that rotation of whatever it last stayed on. Now, normal pistons in Minecraft, when you give them a redstone signal, they'll push and pull blocks. But with the create mod, there's a block called the sticky mechanical piston, which can move all blocks in front of it that are super glued together rather than just the block in front of it. And it can extend more than a regular piston can because it has these things called piston extension poles that you can extend way back. Now, sticky mechanical bearings need rotational power to work, but they don't actually take any amount of stress units, which means it doesn't matter how fast you spin them, they will never actually use up any stress in your system. So I'm going to show you how to move a door like this with just one sticky mechanical piston. So first, you want to know how wide your door is. So if we're going to pull this to the side, we're going to need it to have this block here and right here. And to do that, we'll place our sticky mechanical piston one block away from where this block would end up. So since my door is 4 blocks wide, I have 4 blocks in between the door and the piston. Now, on its own, a mechanical piston can't just extend when it has rotational power. So you'll want to place back piston extension poles however wide your door is. In my case, I have a 4 block wide door, so I'll need 4 extension poles. So now whenever I give it power, it'll move down all until it gets to this block. And then if we reverse the rotational power, it'll bring that block back. But rather than just bringing the one block back, we'll want to bring the entire door back. And to do that, we can simply just super glue the entire door together, and now it should pull the entire door. And we can actually use a sequenced gear shift to make opening and closing this door easier. So we'll place one on top of this sticky mechanical piston and whatever you use to get your rotational power on top of that. So for this first instruction, we'll want to set it to turn to move piston. Then you'll want to set the distance to however many blocks wide your door is. Then you'll set the second instruction to await new redstone pulse. Then we'll set this one to turn to move piston and set the distance to however wide your door is. And reverse the direction from what the first instruction was. Now if we temporarily place a button on it and then we click the button, it doesn't actually move. And an easy fix to that is to go back into this gear shift and then reverse the directions from what they were previously and then click the button again and it should work properly. Now, like the mechanical bearing, this one gets faster with more rotational speed. So this is what 256 RPM looks like. And there's also 1 RPM, which is really slow. Now you can place a button with a redstone link below it, or on top of it, or anywhere it fits, honestly. As long as it's not in the way of where your door is going to go, you can place it wherever you want. Then we'll place another redstone link on the sequenced gear shift and give it a frequency. Set this one to receiver. And for the other redstone link, you'll want to give it the same frequency. Now when we click this button, it should pull back the door, and it does, and it should close it when we press the button again. And similar to the mechanical bearing, this also has movement modes. So you can have it always place when it has no rotational power, which is the default mode. And the second one is place only when in starting position. So this will only place it down when it's in the original position. And the third option is to only ever place down the super glued blocks when it's destroyed. So if you break the mechanical piston, then it will place down the blocks that are super glued, but otherwise it'll keep them picked up as a contraption. For this door, I'll choose again, place only in starting position. Then we can go check that it does this correctly. And we can tell that it isn't placing it down here because these glass panes are not actually connected to the smooth stone. And we can also tell by the fact that I can break blocks through it. Then when we close it back up, it should sit itself back down. Now for this next type of way to open your door, I'll be using the same door as the sticky mechanical piston one I just did, but instead I'll have this door rotate down to be flush with the ground. So you'll want to clear out an area below your door that's big enough for your door to fit in, and then also one block to the side, and you'll want to place blocks below your door like this. Then super glue all of these blocks. We'll place a mechanical bearing facing into this block with a sequenced gear shift behind it and whatever you're using to get your rotational power. Then we'll have this rotate 90 degrees. Then we'll make it await a redstone pulse, then turn 90 degrees again, but in the reverse direction. Now when we power it, you can see that it goes down, it places, then when we give it a new signal, it goes back up. And we can change the modes like we did in the first door to make it not place down whenever you don't want it to. Here you can see that it's not actually flush with the ground, and to fix that you can just place a few more blocks on the side like this and super glue those as well. Then once you press the button again, it'll be flush with the floor. Then you can fill the floor in, and make sure you place a redstone link somewhere on the sequenced gear shift and give it a frequency, and then set it to receiver. And then place your button with your redstone link wherever you want with the same frequency as the sequenced gear shift. And then once you press the button, it should go down, and then it should come back up when you press it again. And if you want to confuse people on your server, then you can place an iron door next to the button that you use to open this. You can place the redstone link somewhere connected to the block that's on the button. And now if anyone comes and tries to open your door on the server, they'll expect this iron door to open, but instead they'll get this. And then you can close it back up again. And then when it sets itself back down, the iron door will close. And for this, it has to be in only place near initial angle mode, or else the door will break whenever it flips downwards. And this wouldn't work with a wooden door because then the people on the server would just go open the door manually rather than pressing the button. And we can also use the mechanical bearing to make a drawbridge that opens over your moat in a castle. So to do this, you'll first want to pick the spot that your bridge will rotate around. For me, I'll choose this block, which is just below the actual wood on the drawbridge. Then I'll place the sequenced gear shift along with a source of rotational power behind it. We'll set it to open 90 degrees, await a redstone pulse, then turn 90 degrees in the opposite direction and click done. Then we'll super glue your drawbridge door together. Place a button on the side temporarily to make sure the sequenced gear shift works properly. And we'll also want to set this to only place near initial angle. And it's good that we did that because it would have placed itself down and broken all the blocks that it's colliding into since it rotated the wrong direction. So we'll fix fix that by reversing both of these directions, and now it opens up correctly. And you can connect up your redstone link to this, set it to receiver, place back the blocks in your castle. Then you can place a button, say here, with a redstone link under it with that same frequency. Then fill in the hole and press the button, and it should work. And now you have a fully working drawbridge for your medieval build. And for this one, I'll give it a relatively slow opening and closing speed, since I feel like that's how a drawbridge would actually open. Now we can also use a sticky mechanical piston to open a castle gate that's more like this by pulling it down into the ground. First, you'll want to super glue together your door, and you'll also want to super glue your floor so it pulls that as well. Then you'll count how many blocks tall your gate is, not including the floor, and place the sticky mechanical piston that many blocks down, and give it that amount of piston extension pulls under it. Then add in a sequenced gear shift and your rotational power source. Set this to turn to move piston at however many blocks long your door is. Set the second instruction to await new redstone pulse, followed by the third one being turn to move piston again, making it the same distance as before but the reverse direction. Then we'll press the button to make sure it goes the correct direction. And if it doesn't go the correct direction, then just reverse these two directions. And if everything is super glued together, it should pull the whole gate down. As you can see, mine actually pulled it down one block too far, so it's actually not flush with the floor. And to fix that, you can just change the distance down by one block. Then once you get that working, you'll want to place a redstone link below this sequence gear shift. You can set this to whatever mode you want. Set this redstone link to receiver mode and whatever frequency you want. Then place a redstone link with the same frequency and a button connected to the block it's connected to. Once you press the button, it should remotely pull the gate down and then push it back up. Now you can fill in any of the leftover space that you have, and your gate is finished. Now this next door I'm going to show you how to build is a trap door that opens into the ground. Now you'll first want to super glue your door, and for this door I'll be making two different segments. So this half will open one direction and this one will open the other. And once you've super glued it together, then you'll want to clear enough space below it so that it can open without hitting any blocks. Then on the end that it's going to rotate around, you'll want to super glue another row of blocks below it, and you'll want to super glue one row of blocks behind that. Now this row of blocks will be the pivot point, and the row behind it will keep it more flush with the ground. Then we'll do the same thing on the other side. We'll place our mechanical bearings here with sequence gear shift and your power source behind them. Then we'll leave the first instruction alone and set the second one to await new redstone pulse. Then the third instruction will be turn by angle, the same angle in the opposite direction. And we'll do the same thing for the other sequenced gear shift, except this time we'll make the first one reversed and the second one forward. Before you test it, you want to make sure it's set to only place near initial angle. And as you can see, this time it opened up, but if you want it to open down, you can just reverse the direction and it should open down and close back up. Then we'll make this sequence gear shift opposite of whatever the other one is. Set this to only place near initial angle and then check that it works, and it does. Then we can add redstone link set to receiver on this side with any frequency, and put another redstone link with the same frequency also set to receiver on the other sequence gear shift. Then you can cover this all up. Then you can place a redstone link with that frequency and a button on top, and then fill in the hole. And whenever you press this button, it should open and close the doors. Now this final door I'm going to show you is a hidden door. Now to open this door, there actually is no button. And that's because I used a linked controller to be able to set the frequency of the redstone link to open it remotely from my inventory, and nobody else can open it unless they have the controller or they accidentally find the correct frequency. So what happens is whenever I right click with this linked controller in my hand, it brings up the actual controller. Then whenever I press the button I map to it, which is W, it opens the entire wall. I actually did this by using a piston extension pole that extends pretty far down so that it's as tall as the actual piece of terrain I wanted to move. Then I added the sequence gear shift, and to connect the controller to the redstone link, there's two ways you can do it. The first is to just right click with the linked controller in your hand and it'll tell you bind mode active, and you can press to bind that frequency to that key. So since this is set to receiver, whenever I open the controller and press space, it'll turn it on, and when I let go, it turns it off. Now the other way to set the frequencies is to crouch and right click with the linked controller in your hand. It'll bring up this menu, and then you can add whatever items you like to be the frequency. And whenever you hover over the slot, it tells you which keybind is for that frequency. Then you can exit out of it. And if you give a redstone link with that same frequency and then you press that button, it will turn on that receiver. Hopefully this video helped you with making better doors with the Create mod. Don't forget to leave a comment down below with what you would like to see me build next. And while you're down there, I would really appreciate it if you hit that like and subscribe button. And you can also become a member if you want to help support the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.